This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Uh, yeah, am I audible?
హలో
Yeah,
సార్
okay.
వినిపిస్తుంది సార్.
Yeah, thank you. Let us start today's session. So it's analog communications a review. Already one session we have attended and we have completed first 2 units. Now let us start with the next unit, angle modulation. And there are two types of angle modulation, frequency modulation and phase modulation. Frequency modulation is defined as the frequency of the carrier is changed in accordance with the instantaneous value of the message signal. If we consider a typical carrier signal, a sinusoidal signal, this is called angle, and angle is actually expressed as 2 pi fct plus phi, where phi is phase, fc is frequency. And if you do frequency modulation, before modulation the frequency will be fc, but after modulation it changes to instantaneous frequency, and the expression for instantaneous frequency is fc plus kf m of t, where this kf is called sensitivity, frequency sensitivity of the modulator. Now there is another term called frequency deviation, which we will define little later, which is being expressed as kf maximum value of the message signal. So this is frequency modulator. What actually happens is if message is 0, instantaneous frequency is equal to fc, which means unmodulated. If message is 1 volt, with kf 5 hertz per volt, this is frequency sensitivity factor whose units are hertz per volt. So when message is 1 volt, the instantaneous frequency becomes fc plus kf into m of t according to this expression. So it is fc plus 5 hertz, so on and so forth. So your message can be either positive, negative, or 0. Accordingly, the instantaneous frequency either increases, decreases, or remains equal to fc. Now, for better understanding, let us consider single tone modulation case where m of t is cos 2 pi fmt. If you do all substitutions, we get maximum instantaneous frequency when m of t is plus am. So similarly, minimum instantaneous frequency when message is minus am. The same can be expressed as fc plus delta f, fc minus delta f. And in general, this frequency deviation delta f can be defined as kf into the modulus of maximum value of message signal. So what essentially we understand from this is that frequency modulator is a voltage to frequency converter. If you still don't understand, you can see as message increases, message amplitude is increasing, the frequency of the output is also increasing. When it reaches its maximum, the frequency reaches its maximum, which is equal to fc plus delta f. Similarly, if message is decreasing, the frequency output signal frequency also decreases. So this is what frequency modulation is, but how do you derive the FM equation, that is time domain description of the FM? And that is based on this fundamental relationship where frequency equal to 1 by 2 pi, the derivative of the angle, and the same can be written as in reverse, the angle information is equal to 2 pi integration fi of t dt. So here fi of t is already we mentioned that it is fc plus kf m of t. Substituting that and doing integration, we get the angle to be equal to 2 pi fct plus 2 pi kf integral m of t dt. And substituting this back into our output equation, the fm equation s of t would become equal to ac cos 2 pi fct plus 2 pi kf integral m of t dt. Now let us take singleton case again. M of t is this, so that Fm equation becomes a cos 2 pi of ct. Here you can do integration, you will get this, and the ratio kf am by Fm can be um, written as beta. So we have this beta which is being called as modulation index, which is actually defined as kf am by Fm, but we already know that kf am is delta f. So modulation index is delta f by Fm. This is frequency deviation after modulation. This is message frequency. It is a single tone case, so single frequency. So finally, altogether, this is Fm equation in general, you should remember, and this is Fm equation when the message is a single tone signal. And this is a very important term, modulation index. This is equivalent to the modulation index in case of AM, the amplitude modulated signal. Now we have two different types of FM are possible depending on beta value. This beta can be either less than 1 or greater than 1. So when beta is less than 1, the FM is called narrowband FM. When beta is greater than 1, the FM is called wideband FM. Now our job is to see how to generate each of them and so on, and looking at it, their spectra, all these things. So finally, before we start narrowband FM, right, before we start narrowband FM, this is the FM equation for single tone message signal. This is modulation index formula. This is frequency deviation formula. Yeah, please, dear students, please unmute your mics. Yeah, thank you. So how we got this? Somebody please unmute your mics. Okay, this is we got this equation by substituting simple trigonometric formula which says cos A plus B formula, cos of A plus B formula, which gives cos A cos B minus sin A sin B. Now as beta is less than 1, these approximations are correct. So cos beta something gives us 1, sin beta something gives us that itself, beta sin 2 pi fmt. Substituting that, we get s of t to be like this. And now there are two terms. This is carrier term and this is a product of two sinusoidals. Again we can substitute another trigonometric formula, sin A sin B formula, so that we finally we get this expression. Now this is narrowband FM equation. We call this as narrowband FM equation, where it has three terms: carrier term, FC plus FM term, FC minus FM term. This looks exactly like AM equation only. Only difference is we have negative sign instead of positive sign here at the FC minus FM term, right? Now we can see the time domain waveforms and the frequency domain spectra. This is message signal, this is carrier signal, this is message signal. If you look at the FM, its envelope is constant, but its instantaneous frequency is changing. You can observe that as amplitude of the message signal is increasing, the frequency or number of oscillations or number of cycles of the narrowband FM is also increasing. And as amplitude is decreasing, the number of cycles per second is decreasing. This is time domain waveforms. Now look at the spectrum. We got three terms. So this is a the spectrum on both sides we are having. So three impulses corresponding to three of these sinusoidal signals. Its amplitude is AC, so we get impulse amplitude as AC by 2. The amplitude of these two terms are AC beta by 2. We get AC beta by 4 as heights of these two. If you compare this with AM, this impulse will be having positive amplitude in case of AM, whereas here it is negative. Only because of this we are getting a constant envelope with instantaneous frequency changing in accordance with the amplitude of the message signal. Now if you look at this, if you want to transmit this narrowband FM, this spectrum you have to transmit, and this spectrum is occupying from FC minus FM to FC plus FM, which means it is twice the bandwidth of the message signal. So the transmission bandwidth of narrowband FM is 2W. Similarly, what is the transmission power required? The transmission power required is easily calculated, just remembering how we calculated it for AM. So this, as we mentioned, this is exactly similar to AM equation only, except this difference. So the power calculation is also carried out in the similar fashion. PT equal to PC into 1 plus, instead of mu we get here beta, because mu is the modulation index of AM and beta is the modulation index of FM. So these two essentially remain same as that of AM. So this is not used in practice, narrowband FM. Let us go for wideband FM. And what is wideband FM? Wideband FM is FM with beta greater than 1. Let us start with again the basic FM equation. If we expand this using cos of A plus B formula, again we get the same expression, but this time we cannot substitute, or we cannot substitute the approximations of this cos theta and sin theta, because theta is not less than 1, beta is greater than 1, so this expression is greater than 1, this expression also greater than 1, and this cos of this is dependent on beta, sin of this is dependent on beta. Beta is given constant and it can be given any value. So we need to be careful in understanding cos beta, sin beta, these two things, and these two are being approximated using Bessel functions. Cos beta sin 2 pi fmt is being approximated or being expressed in terms of Bessel functions as j naught of beta plus this summation, and sin of beta sin 2 pi fmt is being expressed as this summation. So these are Bessel functions. There are infinite number of Bessel functions, j0, j1, j2, j3, which I mean j0 of beta, j1 of beta, j2 of beta, so on and so forth. And Bessel functions can also have for negative values of n also. And if you plot each of these Bessel functions, it is very much essential to understand the nature of the, or the characteristics of the Bessel functions. So j0 of beta would be like this, and j1 of beta will be like this, j2 of beta will be like this. And if you substitute these expressions over here, we get three terms. This is carrier term. Instead of earlier we have only AC, but this time we get AC j naught beta cos 2 pi fct. Similarly, this summation is for odd numbers, odd values of n. This summation is for even values of n, right? And this is because we got these properties. Bessel functions are satisfying a set of properties. These are those set of properties. Employing this first property, and we can simply write this expression, write these three terms into single summation like this: AC summation n minus infinity to plus infinity jn beta cos 2 pi of fc plus n fm of t, right? Now we have carrier. In while studying AM, we understood that carrier doesn't convey any information, and it is simply wasting power. So we always looking to suppress this carrier. In wideband FM also we can suppress the carrier by properly choosing beta value. You see, this entire term depends on Jn of beta, right? And carrier amplitude completely depends on this j naught of beta, one particular Bessel function, and that particular Bessel function is this j naught of beta, and this is periodically becoming zero. Whenever j naught of beta becomes zero, that means to say that this carrier component also becomes zero. But at what values of beta? This horizontal axis is beta, vertical axis is jn of beta. So as beta is increasing, alternatively or periodically, each of these functions are becoming 0. So to suppress the carrier, we need to choose beta such that the the location at which J naught of beta becomes 0. If you observe or if you simulate this using MATLAB or Python, we can see that this J naught of beta is crossing the 0 axis at 2.4, 5.5, 8.6, so on and so forth. So whenever your beta is these values, then you can say the wideband FM is not having any carrier component. Okay. Now let us see transmission power. To calculate transmission power required for the transmission of wideband FM, we simply expanding the summation in terms of its power. The summation is having infinite number of terms. Each term is a sinusoidal, and each sinusoidal power we can easily write. That is amplitude square by 2r, where r equal to 1. So total power equal to from minus infinity to AC square j minus 1 j minus 1 square of beta by 2, AC square j naught square of beta by 2, AC square j1 square. So n value is increasing from minus infinity to infinity, n equal to minus 1, n equal to 0, n equal to 1, n equal to 2, so on and so forth. There are an infinite number of terms. So what is total power? AC square by 2 summation jn square of beta, where n equal to minus infinity to infinity. Don't bother about this because we have a very important property. The Bessel functions are satisfying that the sum of jn square of beta will be equal to 1. So what is total power? Total transmission power required for the transmission of wideband FM is AC square by 2. Similarly, what is bandwidth? Transmission bandwidth required. If you look at the spectrum of wideband FM, we are saying that beta can be anything greater than 1. Now suppose beta is increasing. So if you want to increase the beta, it can be done either by increasing frequency deviation or decreasing FM. But so let us see these two scenarios. Suppose you are keeping FM constant and increasing delta F. So for as delta F is increasing, beta is also increasing. For beta 0.2, this is the spectrum. For beta 1, this is the spectrum. For beta equal to 5, this is the spectrum. Beta equal to 10, this is the spectrum. So there are frequency components right from minus infinity to plus infinity along this frequency axis, and this is carrier frequency. So spectrum is centered at Fc. So theoretically speaking, and this is the second scenario where delta F is constant and FM is decreasing in order to increase the beta value. And in this scenario also, earlier only few components are there, few frequency components, here 1, here 3 or 5. And as you keep on increasing beta by decreasing FM, this is what the scenario is. It almost becomes a continuous spectrum expanding from minus infinity to infinity, right? So either case you consider, you are having a spectrum which is spanning from minus infinity to infinity. So theoretically speaking, the transmission bandwidth required is infinity, but in practice such bandwidth is not possible to realize. That is why practically this person Carsons has developed one rule, and according to that rule the transmission bandwidth required would be 2 into delta F plus W. This W is message bandwidth, or BT equal to 2W into beta plus 1. And this formula, this rule is developed thinking that beyond certain interval, the amplitude of frequency components, beyond certain range of frequencies, the strength of frequency components are becoming negligibly small. They can be neglected without affecting the quality of the FM signal, right? So we are getting this practical Carson's rule formula only because we are neglecting few insignificant frequency components, and we are transmitting only significant frequency components only, and according to that this is the formula. So summarizing wideband FM, this is the wideband FM equation. It is always defined in terms of Bessel functions. This is the transmission power required, and this is the transmission bandwidth in practice we consider. based on the Carson's rule. Let us revise the narrowband FM also. This is the narrowband FM equation, which is similar to AM, and uh, the transmission bandwidth required is 2W, and transmission power required is similar to AM transmission power, PC into 1 plus beta square by 2. Now, how do you generate these frequency modulations? There are two methods which we are supposed to study according to our syllabus. First one is direct method, and second one is indirect method. Let us see direct method. In direct method, carrier frequency is directly varied in accordance with the input baseband signal, which is readily accomplished using voltage controlled oscillator. Voltage controlled oscillator, it means that input is voltage and output is a signal, a sinusoidal signal whose frequency will be continuously changing based on the instantaneous value of the input voltage. So as input voltage changes, output frequency also changes. Because of that only, this particular circuit is being called as voltage controlled oscillator, or simply oscillator. The output oscillation frequency is determined by input voltage. But how do you realize this? It can be realized simply by using a varactor diode and a tuned circuit. Okay, and you're applying message signal over here. Now these two are fixed components, and the capacitance of this varactor diode depends on the message signal. So accordingly, if message is 0, the carrier frequency, this circuit generates a frequency which is called carrier frequency, which is entirely determined by L0 and C0. L0 inductance value and capacitance value, which is 1 by 2 pi square root of L0 C0. Now, as this message signal either becoming positive, negative, or increasing, decreasing, the instantaneous frequency can be obtained based on this formula, where it is L0 of C0 plus KO or K0 M of T, where K0 is a sensitivity factor which converts your voltage into frequency, or voltage into a capacitance, equivalent capacitance units. So instantaneous frequency after some simplifications. So this is we are taking out this 1 by 2 pi square root of L0 C0 outside, so that the expression is like this, and this is exactly like 1 plus it is like 1 plus x whole to the power of minus 1 by 2, where x is very small quantity, and using its approximation, instantaneous frequency becomes fc into 1 minus k naught by 2 c naught m of t. So now you got your instantaneous frequency in terms of message signal, and that too, when message is 0, instantaneous frequency will be equal to fc. When message is positive, fi increases. When it happens like that, right? So message increases, message amplitude increases, fi increases, message amplitude decreases, instantaneous frequency decreases. So altogether, this is what the FM equation generated using direct method is. So it is Fi of t, where that Fi of t is based on this. So it depends on the circuit component values. One is these are design parameters. You are choosing your own C naught value. You are choosing K naught is based on the components that you are using. So these are design parameters. So the FM depends on those design constants. Now let us see indirect method, which is also called as Armstrong method. And what it says is first you generate a narrowband FM and then convert it into wideband FM. And narrowband FM generation is very easy because of its similarity with AM equation, AM. So we are this is most popularly used method, Armstrong method. Let us see how this is accomplished. So first you are generating a narrowband FM signal, message signal you are giving as one input. This takes one carrier frequency and converts it into generates narrowband FM signal. And this how this narrowband FM is generated, let us see. It is nothing but that expression only. Here you look at this, this is summation, carrier is directly added, so you are getting carrier term, right? And then over here you're having cosine as message signal. When you pass it through integrator, that converts into sinusoidal, and this carrier is also cosine. When you do minus 90 degrees phase shift, that also turns into sinusoidal. So two sine signals you are multiplying, sine omega mt, sine 2 pi f ct, you are multiplying together. So you are getting here sine 2 pi f ct into sine 2 pi fmt, okay, with some constants, multiplication constants. So sine a sine b formula, if you substitute, you will be getting cos a plus b cos a minus b formula, cos a plus b minus cos a minus b, and that is being added. Those are the next two terms of your narrowband fm equation, and those two terms you are adding to carrier, so that you are getting the narrowband fm, isn't it? Now this is narrowband fm that we want to convert it into wideband. And wideband fm, this conversion can be done by using this frequency multiplication. Okay, and what is this? You can understand from this. Every frequency multiplier will be having two blocks. One is nonlinear device, another one is band pass filter. Nonlinear device can be anything, your nonlinear diode, anything, a square law device, anything where its input output are related, like a linear combination of these things, a1 of s of t, a2 of s2 s square of t, so on, a n s power n of t, so on and so forth. But when, let us suppose you are taking the square law device as your nonlinear device, and let us see how this happens. And this is repeated many number of times. Suppose you want to multiply the frequency, input frequency, by a factor of n, this combination has to be repeated n number of times. Suppose here I have repeated 2 times. So suppose input frequency is 2 pi fi of t. What is the output frequency of first square law device? It will be obviously cos square, but cos square is 1 plus cos 2 theta by 2. So you have DC term and 2 Fi term. When you pass this through band pass filter, the DC term gets eliminated and what remains is 2 Fi. So what has happened? Because of these two blocks, square law block and band pass filter block, your input frequency Fi is converted into or multiplied by a factor of 2, right? Now you are having one more block, one more such thing. What happens now? This will be converted into cos square. When it is passed through band pass filter, that will be turned into 4 Fi, right? So this is how the frequency multiplier is working. Now what happens while doing like this? What happens is your input is having three frequencies. One is Fc minus Fm, another is carrier Fc itself, the third is the upper sideband, we can call Fc plus Fm. All of them are multiplying, so the separation between them also increases. So this is what actually is happening. Narrowband FM is producing an FM signal with carrier frequency 1 megahertz with beta 0 sorry 0.8 and message frequency 2 kilohertz. And your frequency multiplier, what it does, frequency multiplier with n equal to 10 wideband FM, you are getting this combination is producing us FC10 megahertz and beta becoming 8, FM remains the same. Okay, now we have one problem here. The problem is we want either narrowband FM or wideband FM to be centered at carrier frequency 1 megahertz, but your process is making it 10 times. So your carrier frequency, instead of 1 megahertz, you are getting 10 megahertz. That needs to be converted back again into its original carrier frequency, and that is where this mixer is playing crucial role. Okay, this is the mixer where one input is wideband FM. It's not actually wideband FM. This is frequency multiplied signal, and another input is local oscillator. We need to determine what should be the frequency of this local oscillator. So what we need the carrier frequency of this wideband FM signal to be equal to 1 megahertz, with remaining things remaining constant, like modulation index 8, FM rate remaining equal to 2 kilohertz. So what should be the local oscillator frequency? So local oscillator always produces sum and difference frequencies of its two inputs. Here 10 megahertz is available. Here what frequencies, either you can apply 11 megahertz or 9 megahertz, that will produce this 1 megahertz carrier frequency with beta 8. So we started with 0.8 narrowband FM signal, passing through all these things, we will be getting a wideband FM signal with same center frequency or carrier frequency 1 megahertz with a larger beta value equal to 8 and FM equal to 2 kilohertz. So this is what the generation using indirect method is. Now this is not generation, sorry, the title is wrong. This is detection of FM, detection of frequency modulated signals. There are three methods. One is, this is according to our syllabus. There are three methods. One method is balanced discriminator, another is zero crossing detector, the last one is phase lock loop. Let us start with first one. So balanced discriminator is, we will be having an amplitude limiter, then a differentiator, then envelope detector. What essentially it is doing is, these two blocks are converting FM signal into AM signal, and that AM signal will be preserving information in its envelope. So a simple envelope detector can be used for the detection of the message signal. But how do you realize this? Realization is like this. We will be using this filter and followed by an envelope detector. This whole thing will be acting as your limiter and differentiator, right? But it has some problem. The problem is, it is this balanced discriminator is applicable only when the instantaneous frequency is greater than carrier frequency. But we know the instantaneous frequency can be either greater than Fc or more than Fc or less than Fc. It is both, because we have frequency components on both sides of the carrier frequency in the spectrum of FM, right? So there is a very limited range of frequency operation like this. So over this range of frequencies only it can be operated, but we want to enhance this range of frequencies over which it can be, envelope detector can be operated. And for that reason we are having this this one. It is this is called um, this is also a balanced modulator or balanced discriminator only. We are realizing it. Uh, what is happening is, this upper portion will be active when f naught is, that is instantaneous frequency, is greater than Fc, and the lower portion is active when instantaneous frequency is less than the carrier frequency are centered around Fc, right? Now the characteristic curve will be like this. Okay, instead of this we are getting it like this. So it is now operated from this frequency to this frequency. Earlier it is operated from this frequency to this frequency only, and the demand is that instantaneous frequency should be greater than Fc. Now you can operate this envelope detector when your instantaneous frequency is less than Fc or even greater than Fc. So this is the advantage we are having using this kind of balanced discriminator. And because of its speciality, it is being called as a Foster-Seeley discriminator based on their its inventors. Now let us see zero crossing detector. Zero crossing detectors are also used because of advances in digital integrated circuits. These are frequency counters designed to measure the instantaneous frequency based on the number of zero crossing. Suppose sinusoidal signal, so the frequency is the reciprocal of number of cycles per second, and each cycle is crossing the zero axis two times, right? So that's zero crossings. If you count, that indicates the frequency. But how do you do this calculation? How do you count the zero crossings? So this is how it can be done: hard limiter followed by zero crossing detector followed by multivibrator followed by averaging circuit, or this is an integrator. So this is your FM input. Its frequency is changing continuously. Okay, sometimes it is more than Fc, sometimes it is less than Fc. What this hard limiter does is, it generates a pulse, either positive pulse or negative pulse of equal heights, but widths are based on the width of the half cycles, each of those half cycles, right? So we have here a pulse signal. This is not periodic. Its frequency is also same that of instantaneous frequency of the input FM signal. But what we have is alternative positive and negative pulses with different widths. Now, when this is passed through zero crossing detector, it is like differentiator. So you'll be getting the magnitude of that differentiator will be these impulses, right? Rate of change it is trying to detect. So we are having impulses. Now what this indicates, you have two impulses, okay, within this period of time you have two impulses within this period of time. If you take 1 unit interval, 1 unit of time, more the number of impulses, higher the frequencies. If you take this interval of time, 1 unit of time, lesser the impulses, lower the frequencies. But that we need to convert it into waveform. So that is where the multivibrator come into picture. So multivibrator will convert each of these impulses will be acting as triggers. You might have studied in PDC subject. So these impulses are acting as triggering pulses. Whenever a trigger arises, a pulse of equal height and equal width will be generated. So that is how pulses are generated. When this pulse train is given as input to the integrator or averaging circuit, automatically a continuous waveform will be generated, and that will be exactly proportional to your message signal. So this process is detecting the message signal from FM. So this is what zero crossing detector is. Next one is phase locked loop. This is most widely used because of its efficiency. And phase locked loop is having these three important blocks where voltage controlled oscillator will be in the feedback path. I mentioned that VCO is used in the generation of FM in the direct method. VCO is also used in the detection also, but here in the feedback loop, there in the forward loop. But actually this is acting as simply a local oscillator. Even though it is in local, it is in the feedback path where the output of the overall system is acting as input, and it is producing a signal with some frequency. So this is how it is doing. Suppose input to the PLL is your signal like this, right? Cos 2 pi of ct plus phi of t, where phi of t is 2 pi kf integral m of t. So this is an FM signal. Okay. Now output of the PLL, that is VL of t, will be proportional to the derivative of this the phase information, which is instantaneously changing, and the overall the frequency is changing, right? Suppose the input is this, right? In general it is the scenario. Now you have the input, the FM signal, then the output of the PLL is proportional to differentiation of this term. Do the differentiation and we end up getting this VL of t, the output of the PLL, as equal to KF by KV into M of t. KF we know the frequency sensitivity factor, and KV is also frequency sensitivity factor. However, if KF is the frequency sensitivity of the VCO at the transmitter, then KV is the frequency sensitivity of the VCO at the receiver. I mentioned on both sides VCO will be there. Okay, now look at this expression. Your output signal is proportional to message signal. These two are constants. Okay, once design is over, these two remain as constants. Okay, so output is proportional to message signal. Now let us see phase modulation. Phase modulation in general being expressed as AC cos 2 pi fct kp m of t. Instead of integration, we are having m of t directly. So phase is directly changing uh, in proportional with message signal. So phi of t is kp m of t, which is measured in radians. This kp is called phase sensitivity of the modulator, which is measured in radians per second. As an example, let us consider singleton modulation, where m of t is cos 2 pi fmt, and phase modulated signal is this, and kp into am can be written as delta phi, where it is indicating phase deviation. Earlier it is frequency deviation, now it is phase deviation, right? Delta phi equal to kp am, and we define the modulation index of phase modulator as this Kp. In general, it is Kp, um, um, the modulus of maximum of m of t. So altogether, this is equation of the phase modulation or phase modulator equation: AC cos 2 pi fct, beta cos 2 pi fmt. So in summary, this is phase modulation, okay, where it is Kp m of t, and this is frequency Kp differentiation of m of t. In case of frequency modulation, um, it is angle, expression for angle, overall angle, it is kf integration m of alpha d alpha, and this is frequency expression, instantaneous frequency expression for frequency, instantaneous frequency, it is kf into m of t. So here uh, the summary is that in case of frequency modulation, instantaneous frequency is proportional to message signal. In case of phase modulation, the instantaneous phase is proportional to message signal. Okay, that is why it is called, as phase is proportional to or angle is proportional to message, this is called phase modulation. As frequency is proportional to message signal, this is called frequency modulation, right? Now the question is how to generate phase modulation. That can be generated from frequency modulation itself. Instead of giving message directly to frequency modulator, you give message signal after differentiating it as input to the frequency modulator, that automatically generates phase modulated signal. That is all because of these relations. Okay, your because of these relations, right? Similarly, you can always obtain FM from phase modulated signal using phase modulator. Okay, integrate the message signal first, and then that integrated message apply as input to the phase modulator, that gives FM signal. Okay, so you can obtain one using the other modulator. Now it is a comparison of frequency modulation with that of phase modulation. You can go through this, and this is comparison of overall angle modulation with that of AM. You can go through these points. There are some similarities, some differences, like that, in terms of bandwidth, in terms of transmission power, in terms of transmission bandwidth, all these things. Okay, in terms of expressions. Okay, so this is the end of angle modulation. Let us start this fourth unit, transmitters and receivers, unit 4. Right. First of all, how the radio transmitters are classified. Let us define radio transmitter. It is any electronic system that converts information bearing signal into RF signal so that it can be comfortably radiated into space, so that it propagates and reaches the destination by traveling over longer distances. Now, the coming to classification, it is based on several factors. It is classified according to type of modulation used. Now you know different varieties of modulation techniques: AM, FM, PM, all these things. So based on the modulation technique, the classification of transmitters is there, and there are different designing requirements will be there. Similarly, another category is based on um, the according to the carrier frequency used. Okay, what it means is that you can use the carriers in any range of these frequencies, 30 to 300 kilohertz. It has one applications in one particular area, 300 to 3000 kilohertz being used in AM broadcasting, 3 to 30 megahertz used in long distance communication. So we have designated these range of frequencies are being having some designated names like very high frequencies, ultra high VHF, UHF, like SF, super frequency transmitters, like in the order of gigahertz, that 3 to 30 gigahertz applications in radar and satellite communication. There is another way of another category of classifying the transmitter, radio transmitters, is based on the where the power is enhanced, in what location along the generation path. it is low level transmission transmitters or high level transmitters. Okay, we will see, but first of all, uh, we need carrier, okay, to perform for transmission via space, wireless transmission. We need to modulate the signal, you know all the reasons. And for the modulation, to perform any modulation, we need carrier. But how to generate this carrier? You may think, say, a simple circuitry in your lab can generate frequencies of any value, but like those circuits cannot be used here because of unstability problems of the carrier generators. Okay, unstable carrier causes interference to adjacent channels. Okay, so via the same channel, because of this frequency division multiplexing, number of message signals can be simultaneously transmitted. So there are many message signals simultaneously available in the space. If you have a receiver antenna is looking at all those things. Okay, so if your carrier frequency is not stable, it will be tuned to some other channel instead of the channel that you are intended to tune. Okay, so there will always be interference from the adjacent channels that is being caused by unstable carrier. Now, why this instability is caused? This is caused because either because of frequency drift, and this frequency drift is because of the component values changes because of temperature variations and aging effects. And in communication systems, we cannot accept the much of the deviation from the carrier frequency in medium wave transmitters. It cannot be more than plus or minus 20 hertz. In case of shortwave or ultra high frequency transmitters, it cannot be more than plus or minus 0.002 percentage. Higher the carrier frequency, lesser the tolerance we need, more the stability the carrier frequency should be. Okay, as the carrier frequency value increases, stability requirements also increases. And to achieve this level of frequency stability, only crystal oscillators are used. No other way you can achieve this. But we have one problem with crystal oscillators. It is very difficult to design crystal oscillators for the generation of large frequencies or high frequency values. So what we do is, first we generate subharmonic carrier frequencies, which means, suppose I want 10 megahertz carrier frequency. First I generate 1 megahertz, and I will up convert that into 10 megahertz using some standard procedures. Okay, so that is what here we are having this block diagram. Then its frequency is raised to suitable factor using harmonic generators. And in between we need this buffer amplifier, because we need to isolate this crystal oscillator from its load. Harmonic generator is acting as load on the crystal oscillator. We want to isolate these two, and that is where this buffer amplifier is required. Okay, and then this harmonic generator is generating lot of many frequencies from 1 Hz to 10 Hz. It is generating 2 Hz, 4 Hz, sorry, 4 megahertz, like that, 8 megahertz, so on and so forth. Okay, among all of them, only we need one carrier. So to remove all other frequencies, we need this tuned amplifier. This is essentially a band pass filter. Now, one more standard circuit we require both on transmitter side and receiver side is mixer. What are these mixer characteristics? Where the idea of this topic, discussing this topic, mixer topic here, is to make you understand what this mixer is. Suppose you have a product modulator. One input is message signal, another input is carrier signal. This product modulator will produce DSP signal. We know already this. So first you are generating DSP signal, suppressing the carrier, and this whole thing is mixer. Now what is happening? Let us discuss in terms of frequency domain. The message spectrum is like this. Its bandwidth is W. Then what this product modulator is doing, that is translating this message spectrum to a location where the spectrum is going to centered at FC, carrier frequency, with width being 2W. Okay, now you have in the mixer is a combination of multiplier and band pass filter. First, multiplier, what it does, every multiplier is generating some frequency and difference frequency. So this is being divided into two spectra. One is centered at Fc minus Fl, another is centered at Fc plus Fl. Now this depends on what is the value of your local oscillator. This is called local oscillator. This is different from your carrier frequency or crystal oscillator or carrier. Okay. Now this local oscillator frequency Fl can be either greater than Fc or less than Fc. In this particular case, Fc is greater than Fl, so we are having this. Now band pass filter either keep this or this. So either it retains Fc minus Fl, which will be called as down conversion, or it retains Fc plus Fl discarding the other, which will be called as up conversion. So this is true for Fc minus Fl also, or Fl greater than Fc also. Only thing is your designated frequencies changes. It is Fl plus Fc and Fl minus Fc instead of Fc minus Fl, right? So that is the importance of mixer, which generates. So first of all, you may be having a band pass signal centered at Fc that can be translated to some centered at some frequency designated by the local oscillator. Okay, what essentially we require is we have a spectrum at Fc. We want to translate it to some other location, either to this location or to this location, according to our requirements. That is being done by this the mixer. Okay, that is the whole and sole purpose of this mixer. Now there are some standard values we need to study before going into the types of transmitters, AM transmitters and FM transmitters. Those standard values are according to FCC. The carrier frequencies used in case of FM transmitters are 550Hz to 1650Hz, and bandwidth is 10 kilohertz. Message bandwidth, AM signal bandwidth is 10 kilohertz. And the intermediate frequency, you just remember this term, intermediate frequency 455 kilohertz. You will understand it later. Similarly, for FM transmitters, carrier frequencies are in the order of megahertz, and FM bandwidth would be 200 kilohertz. Then intermediate frequency is 10.7 megahertz. This is in the order of kilohertz, and all these things are in the order of megahertz, except the bandwidth 200 kilohertz. AM is used essentially for speech communication. FM is used for essentially for all sorts of audio communication. So its bandwidth is more, its bandwidth is less. Speech signals are typically occupying 4 kilohertz. So the transmission bandwidth required is twice that of that speech signal bandwidth. So by default, we are choosing it as 10 kilohertz as standard. Here, your signals, all the audio signals, all the sound signals will be occupying several several tens of kilohertz. So the transmission bandwidth will be in standard will be considered as 200 kilohertz. So these are standard values. We cannot change them. Whenever you want to design either AM transmitter, FM transmitter, you need to follow these standard values only. Otherwise, no one will buy your products. Let us see AM broadcast transmitter. Just as I mentioned, there are two modulation or two types of transmitters: low level transmitter, high level transmitter. So there is a huge block diagram, but you can easily understand. We have this crystal oscillator RF buffer amplifier. To isolate this crystal oscillator from the tuned RF amplifier, and then modulated amplifier. What do you understand from this? We have carrier generated with the required carrier frequency out of these three blocks, and then we have audio voltage signal. So audio voltage signal, which is being in real time generated using this microphone and preamplifier, a low pass filter, and being given to the power amplifier, and that is being given to this modulator. Okay, and then this modulator is followed by a series of power amplifiers, and that too, those power amplifiers are of type class A or class AB. Okay, so what essentially is happening here is, in low level modulation or low level transmitters, you need huge power for transmission, right, in the order of few tens of kilohertz in case of AM broadcasting. 10 kilowatts, 10 kilowatts of power is required for the transmission of AM signal. And how do you get that much amount of transmission power? By amplifying using some amplifiers. Those amplifiers are called power amplifiers, and where you are employing those power amplifiers after modulation. Okay, so that means your carrier signal and the message signal are both at lower power levels while you are doing modulation, and then the modulated signal is amplified. Its power is amplified using class A and class AB power amplifiers. Here class C cannot be used, even though it is very efficient, its bandwidth is too low. So that is why it cannot be used. And we have here a feedback um, via envelope detector in the feedback path, that is to cancel the echo. The transmitted signal may be, this microphone may be picking up the transmitted signal, and that has to be cancelled out. So that is why this feedback is necessary, okay, for echo cancellation. Similarly, let us see high level modulation. So obviously you can easily guess here, um, you do all the power amplification of both carrier as well as the message signal before performing the modulation. Okay, so you are having crystal oscillator, buffer amplifier, tuned amplifier, and driver amplifier is a series of class C power amplifiers which is increasing the power of the carrier. Similarly, here we are having audio power amplifier. It is also series of class C power amplifiers which are amplifying the power of message signal. After all these things, this may be generating harmonics, so we are having a tuned circuit. With the help of transformer, your message signal of prescribed bandwidth will be given as one input to the modulator, which is another class C power amplifier, and another input is high power carrier signal. So, and modulated, and the modulator output is simply being radiated via this antenna. So what do we understand? So in high level modulation, all the um, power amplification is done before modulation, before performing modulation. Both the carrier as well as message signal are power amplified before performing the modulation. Whereas in low level modulation or low level transmission, first modulation is performed, then the modulated signal is power amplified, right? Now let us see FM transmitter. FM transmitter is having few more blocks here. What we have is one new block is there, which is called pre-emphasis block, right? And the remaining blocks you can easily understand, which I have already discussed. What is frequency multiplier, what is phase modulator, and this is simply a modulator, okay. And this buffer amplifier to isolate, okay. And this is message signal audio power amplifier pre-emphasis. Where the pre-emphasis is there, pre-emphasis is before the modulator, and these are power amplifiers, right? Now this carrier is obtained from crystal oscillator, that is isolated from the rest of the systems using buffer amplifier. The message signal is amplified to suitable value and then pre-emphasized, and then low pass filtered to band limit that, and then applied to the phase modulator. The other input to the phase modulator is carrier, okay. The carrier is modulated as per the amplitude variations of the message signal, that is it is generating FM signal, and then uh, this is centered at some lower carrier frequencies, and that is converted into wideband FM, so that the frequency deviation will be equal to some standard value 75 kilohertz is achieved by doing so. And then the desired power levels are obtained by this series of power amplifiers, and then finally it will be fed to antenna, which will be transmitted. So this is called Armstrong method, okay. We will discuss what is the requirement of this pre-emphasis and all those things little later. Now let us see, this is regarding the transmitters, AM transmitter, FM transmitter. Let us see receivers. Receivers are also, there are two types, tuned radio frequency receiver and super heterodyne receiver. And receivers are also classified based on the type of modulation technique used. AM receivers, FM receivers. AM again, either it can be TRF or SHD, tuned receiver, tuned radio frequency receiver or super heterodyne receiver. Let us see. what is this TRF and what is this tuned radio frequency and super heterodyne receiver. Um, and they will be same, almost similar for AM and FM. Let's start with tuned radio frequency receiver. It is receiver side, so this is receiving antenna. We have this RF amplifier. RF amplifier is solely responsible for selecting the channel. There are many channels, many message signals available in space. RF amplifier will tune your antenna, which is acting as band pass filter, will be tuned to one particular channel or one particular message, right? So the RF amplifier output is the voltage signal or current. It is an electrical signal. Demodulation is performed and audio frequency amplification is performed. Power amplification is performed. Finally, the output voltage available here is suitable for driving the some output device like speakers. But this particular thing, tuned radio frequency, has got some difficulties. First of all, let us see this RF amplifier. RF amplifier is simply a tuned amplifier. Let us see. This is the ideal characteristic of any tuned amplifier. Suppose this is the resonant frequency or operating frequency, and it should select only that frequency. So if this is the spectrum of uh, ideal tuned amplifier, the gain should be very large at this resonant frequency and bandwidth is very small. Like ideally, tuned amplifier spectral characteristics should be having an impulse like thing. But in general, along with the radio frequency, that is resonant frequency, we end up receiving several other frequencies before less than FR and greater than FR. So a band of frequencies we are receiving because there is a finite bandwidth this is having. Okay, non-zero bandwidth, the tune amplifier. But what do we require? We require ideally like this. So we need to narrow this bandwidth, narrow, right? So in practice, by careful designing, we can achieve the frequency domain characteristics of tuned amplifier, something like this, which is narrower than this. Okay, so it can be a simple tank circuit. Now you will understand what are the inherent difficulties over here. Resonant frequency is 1 by 2 pi square root of LC, no doubt about that. But bandwidth is being expressed in terms of resonant frequency divided by Q. Q is called quality factor. So here you can understand FR is constant, so bandwidth is inversely proportional to quality factor. Okay, let us see few examples. The scenario 1 or case 1, let us assume that receiver is tuned to 550 kilohertz station, right? So Fs is 550 kilohertz. So this is the message spectrum. This is um, the modulated signal spectrum, which is centered at 550 kilohertz. So you need a tuned amplifier or RF amplifier at the very beginning of this receiver. Very beginning of this receiver. This is a tuned amplifier, also called as RF amplifier. This RF amplifier is supposed to be having a characteristic like this. Okay, it is supposed to get the frequencies from 545 to 555. All the frequencies centered at 550 with a bandwidth of 10 kilohertz. So tuned amplifier spectral characteristics should be like this. High gain at FR and gain decreasing, and gain should become negligibly small beyond this 10 kilohertz of bandwidth. To get this kind of tuned amplifier, what should be the Q value we are looking for? The Q value we are looking for is, in order to keep the bandwidth to be equal to 10 kilohertz, the Q should be equal to 55 because FR is 550, 55. So Q in this scenario required is 55. Let us consider another scenario where you are trying to tune your receiver to a channel whose center frequency is 1050 kilohertz. So FR is 1050 kilohertz, right? Of bandwidth 10 kilohertz. So to get a bandwidth of 10 kilohertz, Q should be 105. Okay, 105. So If you cannot achieve this Q value, suppose you end up having Q of 125, then the bandwidth would become 8.4 kilohertz, but we need a bandwidth of 10 kilohertz at least. Okay, so 8.4 kilohertz means that you are losing some portion of the spectrum. Okay, and that decreases the efficiency of the or fidelity of the receiver. Okay, it cannot reproduce the message signal properly. Okay, so if the bandwidth of the tuned amplifier is less than 10 kilohertz, the desired frequency components will be attenuated. If the bandwidth of the tuned amplifier is greater than 10 kilohertz, undesired frequency components will be allowed into the receiver. That is called interference from the adjacent channels. So these difficulties are drawbacks of tuned amplifier, making us to discuss what are the important characteristics parameters of the typical receiver. So there are few important characteristics and their ideal scenarios which we try to achieve through the receiver designs. The first one is selectivity. What is selectivity? Selectivity is receiving desired frequency components and rejecting or attenuating all other undesired frequency components. That is what selectivity is. Like, you want to receive only one channel and attenuating all other channels. So selectivity mainly depends on the very first block of the receiver, that is called tuned amplifier or RF amplifier. RF amplifier, how efficient your RF amplifier is will be determining how good your receiver is at selectivity. Okay. Similarly, the second characteristic parameter is sensitivities, and sensitivity is like receiving the frequencies of all strengths. Okay, right from lower frequency to higher frequency or 10 kilohertz bandwidth, all frequency components irrespective of their original strengths, you should be able to perceive them properly. Okay, so let us see this example, you will understand. Suppose this is your receiving antenna, you have an amplifier, overall gain equal to 10, and this is speaker. To drive this speaker you need at least 10 volts. Okay, and suppose the received signal strength is 1 volt with a 1 volt first of all, right? And this 1 volt signal will be amplified, so the output of this, so speaker is receiving 10 volt signal, so it will be on. Okay, suppose your received signal is 0.8 volts, having 0.8 volts of strength, then the amplifier output will be of 8 volts, so speaker is having only 8 volts, and it needs at least 10 volts, so the speaker does not play any sound. Okay, this is receiver 1 with a gain of 10. Let us see receiver 2 with a gain of 100. Then same speaker you are using, only thing is the receiver is a different receiver with a overall gain larger than the gain of the first receiver. Suppose the received signal is 0.2 volts, then also the speaker will play the sound because it is sufficient enough. Minimum required voltage is 10 volts, the driving voltage is 10 volts. Now 20 volts is available, it will easily drive the speaker, so the sound will be played on the speaker. So which receiver is better? Whose sensitivity is greater than having huge value? Obviously the second receiver is sensitivity is larger than the first receiver's sensitivity. So sensitivity should be high means what? The gain of the receiver should be high, which means um, the strength of every frequency component should be equally amplified, so that every frequency will be played on the speaker, so that every frequency we will be able to listen, right? Then fidelity is this, receiver produce all the frequency components reliably, okay, efficiently. Let us consider this scenario. Okay, usually the audio signals occupy a range of 20 Hz to 20 kHz. So approximately it is 20 kHz. All the frequencies from 0 to 20 kHz. The transmitter is transmitting. The receiver 1, receiver 2, it is receiving the same signal. So it is only reproducing frequencies from 20 to 15 kilohertz, and the second receiver is able to reproduce 20 to 20 kilohertz efficiently. So what we can say is fidelity of receiver 1 is low, fidelity of receiver 2 is high. Okay, so whatever signals, whatever frequencies that are being transmitted, and out of the received frequencies, all of them we should be able to reproduce. The receiver should be able to reproduce. Uh, if you are ending up reproducing frequencies, some of the frequencies attenuated, then the fidelity is low. If you are able to reproduce all the frequencies efficiently, then the fidelity is high. Here again, receiver 2 is a better receiver, right? All these things explained here. Now, to improve the fidelity only, we are using this pre-emphasis on the transmitter side and de-emphasis on the receiver side. Okay, we'll discuss pre-emphasis, de-emphasis little later, but first of all, so these are the important characteristic parameters: selectivity, sensitivity, fidelity. Now, selectivity is determined by the efficiency of the tuned amplifier. Sensitivity is determined by the gain of the amplifiers, and then fidelity is determined by it can be maintained by pre-emphasis and de-emphasis circuits on the receiver side, de-emphasis on the receiver side. Now, by overcoming all the drawbacks of tuned radio frequency receivers, this super heterodyne receiver is being developed, and this is easy to understand. We have several blocks here, right? We have radio frequency amplifier, mixer, where the local oscillator of the mixer and this radio frequency amplifier both are being ganged together. This is called, IF is called intermediate frequency amplifier, followed by demodulator, followed by AF amplifier, audio frequency amplifier, power amplifier. Let us see what is the specialty of this thing. Okay, it is like this. We are having in tuned radio frequency amplifier, we need the tuned amplifier with varying Q values, isn't it? Q value may be ranging from 55 to even 105, like that. A lot of variation is there. Okay, if you want to tune your receiver to 550 kilohertz, your Q required is 45. If you want to tune to channel with center frequency 1050 kilohertz, then the Q required is 105, the value. Okay, and you cannot have tuned amplifiers of that kind. Okay, so to overcome this, we have this SHD, where if tuned amplifier frequency is set to 1050, then the local oscillator will automatically set to 455 kilohertz offset from this. Okay, these two, the frequencies, the frequency difference between these two, tuned amplifier and local oscillator, will be equal to 455 kilohertz, and that is exactly intermediate frequency that is being the standardized value used in case of transmitter, AM transmitters. That is some other value for FM transmitters, right? Now what happens? Now 1050 is available here, and another value is available here. Mixer is producing at some frequency, difference frequencies, which I have already explained. Okay, and only one particular either lower frequency or upper frequency is being either downgraded or upgraded band of frequencies is retained. That will be IF amplified. Intermediate frequency amplifier will strengthen those signals. Let us see. Suppose your receiver is tuned to this 550 kilohertz signal, then the mixer local oscillator frequency should be 1005 kilohertz, so that the output of the mixer will be centered at 455 kilohertz with bandwidth of 10 kilohertz. Is this clear? So the channel to which the receiver tuned is 550 kilohertz, and accordingly the local oscillator frequency is chosen 455 kilohertz offset from this 550, which is equal to 1005. Here FL is greater than this FR or FS, so that the output of the mixer is the spectrum is centered at 455 kilohertz. Now similarly, suppose the receiver is tuned to 1050 kilohertz, then you should choose FL so that it is equal to 1505 kilohertz, so that the output of the mixer will be again equal to 455 kilohertz. The spectrum will be centered again at 455 kilohertz. Okay, so the point here is always this amplifier, which is obviously called as IF amplifier, is looking at a band pass signal which is centered at always at 455 kilohertz, irrespective of to a channel that is being the receiver is tuned to. The receiver, that means this tuned amplifier, is tuned to any message signal, any channel, right from 550 kilohertz to 1650 kilohertz. Okay, because of this mechanism, the mixer, local oscillator ganged with tuned amplifier, this mechanism, the IF amplifier will always be looking at, it is always looking at a spectrum which is centered at 455 kilohertz and of bandwidth 10 kilohertz. Okay, and now it is easy to maintain this amplifier, IF amplifier, because always you need, this is also a tuned amplifier only. Here we call it as RF amplifier, here we call it as intermediate frequency amplifier. Now we can design this IF amplifier very easily because we need an amplifier, a tuned amplifier whose Q value is constant. That constant value is equal to, because bandwidth is fixed 10 kilohertz for speech communication, and the center frequency is also fixed at the output of the mixer 455 kilohertz. The Q value required is for 45.5 for the given IF frequency, and for the given bandwidth the required Q value is 45.5 value. This is also remaining a constant, so that IF amplifier can easily be designed, and so that the drawback of tuned radio frequency amplifier is overcome with the help of this scenario. Okay, now FM receiver, if you look at, it is being like this. Standard values are 88 megahertz to 108 megahertz. 200 kilohertz is the bandwidth. This receiver, this superheterodyne receiver can be is supposed for AM receiver. Now I am discussing superheterodyne receiver for receiving FM signals. We have here all these things are same, but after demodulation we have de-emphasis for these standard values. Here IF frequency, intermediate frequency, should be equal to 10.7 megahertz, right? IF amplifier, we discussed amplitude limiter is required because it is FM signal which we are trying to detect, but while it is traveling through channel, because of noise the amplitude may be changing, whose envelope is supposed to be constant. Okay, such things we can, the noise can be eliminated. Noise in the amplitude, the fluctuations in the amplitudes can be, envelope fluctuations can be removed using this amplitude limiters. So amplitude limiter is required. And then the final topic, pre-emphasis and de-emphasis. As we already mentioned that pre-emphasis is used before FM transmitter, that is FM modulation, and de-emphasis circuit is used after FM demodulation, after demodulation is performed. This is before modulation is performed, this is after demodulation is performed. Now what is the scenario? As frequency increases, we have the carrier frequencies from 88 megahertz to 108 megahertz. This is a huge interval, right, in the order of megahertz. Okay, so as this frequency is increasing, tuned frequency is increasing, the level of interference also increases. right? Whereas this remains constant for phase modulation, but that is not true for frequency modulation, where interference also increases along with the tuned frequency value increases. Okay, so this can be, which means the high frequency components, the signal strength of the high frequency components is getting attenuated. That means the signal to noise ratio at the higher frequencies attenuating rapidly compared to the SNR value at the lower frequencies. Okay, now the idea is using pre-emphasis high frequency components, let us boost them before performing modulation, so that when the FM signal which is generated after pre-emphasis is traveled through the channel, even though the transmitted signal high frequency components are attenuating, because we have already boosted them, that is being compensated over here, right? So that is why the pre-emphasis is used. So what is pre-emphasis filter? Pre-emphasis filter is essentially a high pass filter which is giving high gain or boosting high frequency components, and this kind of circuit, passive circuit, can be used, or active circuits can also be used. And de-emphasis is an opposite effect of that of pre-emphasis. Say low pass filter or integrator is used as de-emphasis filter. Okay, so let us understand it in a more better way. So these are the received spectrum. This is the received spectrum where signal strength is low at higher frequencies beyond f1. Suppose f1 is some marked frequency, greater than fm, SNR is rapidly falling down. Okay, but less than f1, SNR is quite good enough, okay, in the reconstruction process. Okay, so the noise, these are PSDs, power spectral densities. Noise PSD is like this. Noise is increasing rapidly after f1, but noise is somewhat less over here. That is why signal to noise ratio is high here, signal to noise ratio is less here. Okay, that is what being explained here. Now, so this is what we are having received, the PSD of the received spectrum, we are having it like this. We want to boost this high frequency components after f1. Okay, we want to strengthen them, boost them, which means that we want to increase the amplitude of these frequency components. So we are using high pass filter like this. The gain essentially remains constant up to f1, and gain starts increasing of this pre-emphasis circuit, so that these will be leveled up. Okay, strength increased. Originally the strength of the signal strength of these frequency components are like this. Now after pre-emphasis filtering, they become strengthened. Okay, similarly, what is de-emphasis? De-emphasis on the receiver side, suppose we are having this kind of spectrum received at the output of the demodulator. Okay, this is the power spectral density of the signal available at the output of the demodulator. We want to attenuate these things properly. Okay, so that this portion of the spectrum is obtained. Okay, for that we can use low pass filter whose gain is constant from 0 to f1, and gain starts decreasing. Okay, so that if you give this as input to the DMC circuit, this will be reproduced. Actually, this is what our message spectrum is, centered at 0 and of width 10 kilohertz. Okay, so PSD of the actual message signal. Okay, so summarizing, on the transmitter side, pre-emphasis filter is used, which is a differentiator, and its characteristic curve or transfer characteristics are like this. It is a differentiator or high pass filter. On the receiver side, de-emphasis filter is used, which is essentially a low pass filter. Okay, and then as a final remark, the one question is quite often asked in all vivas or in many interviews. Okay, we have these pre-emphasis de-emphasis circuits only in FM. Why not in amplitude modulated transmitters or receivers? This can be easily understood looking at the range of frequencies for which AM is operated and range of frequencies for which FM is operated. are the applications where AM is applied and applications where FM is applied. As we mentioned, AM is essentially used in speech communication, and speech signals are occupying only from 20 Hz to 5 kHz. And FM is used for audio communication, where the bandwidth is 20 kilohertz. Transmission bandwidth is 200 kilohertz. Sorry. So it has all the frequencies from 200 Hz to something around 200 kilohertz. Let us suppose 25 kilohertz up to here. Okay. Now the answer to this question, why these emphasis circuits are not there in AM. You look at this portion of the spectrum. This is where our AM transmitters are working. So in this lower end of operating frequencies, signal to noise ratio is quite good enough. Noise is not that stronger, so SNR is quite high. Okay, so the frequencies are not at all attenuated, so we don't require any pre-emphasis or de-emphasis mechanism in case of AM transmitters. Whereas in FM, so we have frequency components beyond this 5 kHz, so there are large values of frequencies are also present. Okay, and as frequency is increasing, more and more they are attenuated. Higher frequency components are more attenuated. So this is FM signal, FM bandwidth. Okay, SNR is good over here, but SNR is very poor over here. These are to be boosted up on the transmitter side before modulation, and the same range of frequency components are to be attenuated on the receiver side after demodulation. Okay, so this is what transmitters receivers. So this ends the fourth unit, and we postpone the discussion on next 2 units in the next session. Possibly there could be another session. Okay, and so this is the end of this second session. We discussed third and fourth units. Third unit is angle modulation. Fourth unit is transmitters and receivers. Pre-emphasis, de-emphasis is very important one. Super heterodyne receiver circuits are very important one in examination point of view. Similarly, on the angle modulation, wideband FM is very important. Those Bessel functions, their properties, applying those properties and getting the simplified FM equation, those derivations you should practice and reproduce in the examinations, right? And then uh, 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 this FM generation and FM detection, these techniques, balanced modulator or balanced slope detector, Foster-Seeley circuits, these are also important in the third unit. Okay, I hope this is the end of the session. I hope you are, I was able to reproduce or revise these 2 units properly, so that you gain something, so that you can study well or revise this part of syllabus. Okay, thank you very much.